first part of our show today, we're going to meet a gentleman who is truly created one of the all-time great characters in the history of American entertainment. I'm talking about William Shatner. When you think about the Star Trek series, you're talking about a television series that was on the air for 3 years. It went off the air in 1969. It's been 10 years, and the fans like the people in the audience today, would simply not let this show die. So now we are confronted with Star Trek, the motion picture. Here is William Shatner. Join us.
How are you, Bill?
As you were.
Wait a minute, I say that.
You're right, Admiral. Here, let me help you with this, sir.
No, I can do this.
All right.
This is maybe your show, but I've plucked on a lavalier in my time. There you go.
Nice to have you with us.
Nice,
and as
nice
I said to you before the show, I really wish you the best of success with Star Trek, the motion picture.
Thank you, Bill.
First thing I want to do is go back a little bit. You probably heard my introduction, Star Trek.
You can do it again if you want.
You liked it. The television series. What was there about television back in the days of the late 60s that led to the cancellation of an obviously enduring hit like Star Trek?
Oh, well, it wasn't obviously enduring. I
At
think,
the
as a
time?
problem.
No?
If I recall correctly, and I'm sure many of these people will be able to answer more clearly than I, it was moved around in the 3 years that we were on.
Time slots.
Yeah.
And
our final time slot was Friday at 10 o'clock in the evening, and I don't...
You probably weren't home then to watch it. Who was home at Friday 10 o'clock to watch?
That's it, exactly. It's a graveyard slot, isn't it? So I think that our demise was hastened by our slotting.
Well, how do you feel about the fact that the fans kept it alive, and about I mean, it's been 10 years. You've gone on to do other things. You did other things before
I was going to say, that was such a meager list of credits. It sounds like every so often.
Yes. And then he took 4 years off and rested, and in the 5th year, well, there was some of it. I know you've done more than that, but we had to get on with the show.
I know, but I mean, it sounds so awful. Like, is that all I did? Wow. Yes, I was gainfully employed for a number of years subsequent to that. What was your question?
Well, I was just curious about your emotional reaction to the people we have with us. The fact that you've created something that was good work when you did it, and that enough people of enough different generations have seen the value of your work and the work of the writers and the technicians and the other actors. And people like this, who are your fans, have really kept the thing alive. And really, I think, are responsible for the fact that we've got a huge motion picture being released this weekend. How do you feel about them?
How do I feel about them?
Yeah. There they are.
Oh, there they are. They're wonderful. They are the greatest. I've watched Fandom on other personalities. I've looked with great curiosity at how other people who have a following, what it's like. And I don't think that anybody in the public eye has the kind of people who like me and us. There's a real genuine caring. There's a genuine love. It lacks the hysteria of that kind of momentary thing. These people have been fans of Star Trek and perhaps fans of mine for years.
Why is it, though? That's what I'm trying to figure.
Because they're terrific.
But they see something there. There's something there in Star Trek. Is it the fact that it exists on so many levels? It's good for kids.
Why? Are you asking me why do they like Star Trek?
Yeah, what is there about it?
Bill,
you know?
I am totally mystified.
Good answer.
But I can give you some potential answers to that. And then I think what would be interesting is if now or later to hear what their reasons are, because I said it jokingly, but I really am. I'm kind of, I never quite understand it. Some people like the science fiction aspects of it. You know, the guy, Mr. Bova from Omni would like the science fiction aspects of it. I almost called him Mr. Omni from Bova.
Nice to have his own magazine.
And then some people like the action and adventure, the adventure story. Mm-hmm. There was a philosophical overtone to many of the shows. Science fiction, by its very nature, says that the future itself will exist, and that sense of hope that we won't be obliterated tomorrow is a factor.
Well, one of the factors...
The family of, I have one more, and then I have my possible solution.
All right.
The family of players, that the group of people that they learn to like and anticipate what they would do.
And all of them are back for the motion picture.
Every single one of them.
That's great.
That's amazing. And none of that, I think, explains why Star Trek was the way it was. And the only thing I come up with is the mystique of what a hit is in the first place. What makes a hit play? What makes a hit movie? We really don't know, because if the makers of that hit movie, hit play, could analyze it and say it's 3 drops of talent and 4 drops of writing, they would make that same formula and come out with a hit movie as frequently as they could just turn the cameras. But that isn't the case.
There are no experts, really, when you find it.
The final analysis is chemistry.
Now, it's been 10 years since Star Trek went off the air. What is the time frame that has passed between the end of the series and the opening of the movie in the lives of yourself and Mr. Spock and so forth?
It's never really spelled out, but we figure about 5.
5 years. Okay. And how has your character changed? 5 years is a long time. I mean, I've changed a lot in 5 years personally. You probably have. What about Captain and now Admiral Kirk? What's happened to him in 5 years?
By the way, Admiral Kirk is there, but when he takes over the captaincy of the ship, he becomes the
captain again. No. How has he changed?
Well, he's changed. I think he's a little more driven, a little more anxious about his powers.
Well, what has he been doing for the 5 years?
Driving and being anxious.
Driving? Stopping off at the McDonald's in outer space.
Driving a little bit. I don't know what he's been doing. He's been working his way up the ladder of the service.
For the Federation.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's what he's been doing.
Now, go ahead.
But so you asked me how he's different.
How is he different?
Well, that I think he's a little more anxious about what he can do and driven perhaps. But essentially he's different in the way that I'm different. 10 years is a long time, and just from the passage of 10 years, you look at life a little differently. You're a little more aware of your own mortality. You're a little more concerned about the quality of your life. I am quite a different person than I was 10 years ago. My life has changed considerably.
Can you quickly tell us about that? I mean, I know it's a decade, but
well,
like in about a minute.
That's quite a question.
No, is there one thing you can say you care less about success, you care more about success, you're more into your family?
I care about success, but the definition of success perhaps has changed.
Yeah, more inner peace, probably.
I think perhaps that might be it. So I think, now, having played the series as close to myself because of the exigencies of time and pressure on a series, you don't have time to pretend you're something you're not. You are what you are. You have to play it that way. Most series leads, all series leads, are what they are on the air. That's what they're really like, because you're too tired, you're too fatigued to do anything else. So Captain Kirk was pretty much myself. In the movie, I had to go back and watch old segments to find out what I had done, you know, when the movie was imminent. And I just played him again close to myself.
Now, Captain Kirk, as I've been doing a little research for the show, in a way, was based when Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, when he went to the network.
Roddenberry, the creator. It sounds like...
The creator! God. Actually, I want to get so much in. That's really why I'm talking so fast at this point. But what I wanted to get to was that he compared your character to Horatio Hornblower, the great English sailor in the 19th century. He also compared Star Trek to sort of wagon train in outer space. So that really what I'm getting at is that the character you play is a man of ultimate and final authority. And I'd like you to talk about that a little bit in terms of that, which means that you're the ultimate hero and that you really can't make many mistakes as Captain Kirk.
I spent some time when I was doing some work for the Navy with atomic submarine commanders. The guys who go out on patrol for 6 months and are linked in...
really on their own.
They're on their own. Yeah. They are linked with, by radio or whatever means of communication they have with the mainland, but they're really autonomous. And this captain of an atomic submarine is very much like the captains of the sailing ships of old when they couldn't get back to command, and they had very much a responsibility. But in addition to that, commanders of those kinds of vessels, perhaps all commanders, but I can verify the atomic submarine ones. In these close quarters and alone for 6 months with no one else but the crew, have to keep the crew at some arm's length. As much as they would like to say, I'm in pain, I need help, I want somebody to say hello to, that, you know, I have to tell somebody something. He must keep these real men, must keep them at arm's length in case the time ever comes when he says, press the button and launch that Polaris.
They have to do
and the guy can't say, hey, George, you don't really want me to press the button.
Hey,
I said, press the button.
George.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah. And it can't be a George. It's got to be captain.
Exactly.
And so there's this arm length thing. Well, imagine going out for years in this kind of thing, as they did in the sailing ships of old.
Sure.
So I was aware of all this, and that ultimate authority is an awesome thing. It's also very lonely.
Let me move on to the concept of the change over from the television series. What basically can you do in Star Trek the motion picture that you really couldn't do in Star Trek the TV series?
You mean as an actor? Or?
No. I mean as a film. What can you do with the movies? Special effects?
Oh, yeah. The story...
Nudity?
A bald head. The story is good, solid, tasty Star Trek. You'll like it. But the special effects are incredible. Imagine Doug Trumbull.
Oh, wow.
Imagine John Dykstra.
That's fabulous.
On the same show. I mean, it's
okay to applaud. I mean, you know who he's talking about. Excuse me a second. I hate it when I look and I see the audience going, ah! Ah! Go ahead. Go ahead, excuse me, Bill.
Well, those two geniuses of special effects, the greatest artists in the industry, are working on the same movie. I mean, it's incomprehensible. And there they are, plying their trade, doing their wonderful things.
That's going to be Star Trek.
And that's going to add the dimension to the huge picture that...
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Now, this question is from deep in the heart of fandom.
I thought you would say Texas.
No, the fandom. There are those Star Trek fans who have intimated a potential homosexual relationship between, not us, between Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, portrayed by Leonard Nimoy. So much to the effect that Gene Roddenberry, in the novelization of Star Trek the Motion Picture, puts an editor's note around the word that Spock uses, which I think is Tyla or something like that. What is it? Which could mean lover or something like that. My question is, why do you think some fans see this potential relationship between Kirk and Spock? Let's have the straight talk.
Because they're gay.
Well, that's it.
But
that's
believe
the reason. Now you've heard it on this show.
Me, I've had to educate Leonard. Don't be ridiculous.
I wasn't. I'm saying this is from fandom.
I know. Well, but a beautiful girl is, I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? I mean...
I've always thought so, but I'm just... But the fans... Why do you think some fans saw it that way?
Well,
all is illusion?
No, because a friendship between two men is so strange to American audiences. You know, I mean... men and women in Europe, for example, walk arm in arm. They're close friends. They walk arm. Hey, what do you think about them? Well, I don't know. And they're holding each other.
You and I do that down Fifth Avenue. We're going to hit every column in the world.
Well, you know, a different
it's true, though.
Midday show, you know. Yeah, midlife show.
So you think that's just part of their reading something into it? There's no evidence in the script or in your performances that supports that?
Well, none in hand.
None in hand. All right. How has the women's movement affected this? What about what's her name? Nurse Chapel. How is she different in Star Trek the Motion Picture?
Well, not too different.
Not too different?
Not too different. The women's movement, you know what you're talking about. I have a book coming out called Shatner.
Do we have it here?
We're No Man.
Throw it over.
How did you get it?
Here's a man.
Carry it. Where did you get it?
Brentano's in Queens.
Hey, Brentano's.
When the fan has the book before the author, that's a sign
I got
of
my
a good
copy
fan.
yesterday.
Here's the book.
Listen. Now, what you're talking about the concepts of femininity and masculinity, are dealt with in that book in some way. I mean, hopefully in a more detailed way than we can on the air. But the concepts of masculinity, for example, which we were just talking about. Men don't cry was the rule, was the thing that we were all brought up with.
Right.
But Star Trek, and perhaps myself, had something to do with trying to change that. Men can cry and still be masculine. Why can't you fight as hard and still be moved to tears by something?
Did Captain Kirk ever cry on Star Trek?
Certainly, absolutely. Sometimes when I saw the show.
Like I said, particularly in 1969 after it was canceled.
Right.
Good time to cry.
And that has to do with the concept of femininity. My wife writes a chapter there about the concept of femininity, the chameleon effect we talk about, how women are brought up to change their way of feeling to suit the person they're with. They could change their skins. How do you want me to feel? Then that's the way I feel. You want me to cry and be feminine? That's the way I cry. The chameleon effect we talk about. And those are some of the aspects that we discuss in the book that are suggested by Star Trek.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading this. It's called Shatner, and it's available from Ace Books. Now,
Ace?
Ace.
Or is it Tempo?
Well, this is an Ace book. As a matter of fact, this is a fake cover. This is my biography. We'll take a break. When you look in that camera and say something to the folks who couldn't be in the audience, from Captain Kirk directly.
Sorry, you lucked out.
We'll be right back.